On the evening of Saturday, April 5, 2003, 32-year-old Declan Griffin stepped out of the Horse and Jockey pub in Inchicore, Dublin, clutching a 7-Up and a wad of cash. He was there to settle a debt, a payment for protection that had turned into a trap. As he turned to light a cigarette outside, a single .38 caliber bullet tore through the back of his head at point-blank range. He crumpled to the pavement, blood pooling under the neon glow of the pub sign. No screams, no chase, just the echo of a gunshot mistaken for a firecracker by patrons inside. No mercy, no escape, just a betrayal sealed in lead. In the shadows of Dublin's underworld, where snitches are currency and debts are death sentences, this was no accident. It was a contract fulfilled. And as the shooter vanished into the night, he left behind a trail of whispers, grudges, and a Garda file that would expose the rot at the heart of Ireland's gangland. Welcome to Crime Pulse, where we unearth the stories that bleed into Britain's and Ireland's streets, amplifying the victims caught in the crossfire. If you're new here, hit subscribe to fuel our quest for truth amid the chaos of crime. Your views keep these narratives alive. Drop a comment below. Was Griffin a villain who got his due, or a man betrayed by the system he served? Together, we're holding the mirror to justice's fractured face. Now, buckle up as we descend into the double life of Ireland's most reviled informant, the rise, the rats, and the reckoning. In the gritty underbelly of 1990s Dublin, where heroin epidemics tore through working-class estates and ecstasy powered an exploding rave scene, a young dealer from Coolock began making his name. Born in 1971, Declan Griffin grew up in the concrete maze of North Dublin's toughest neighborhoods. By his early 20s, he was already a seasoned smuggler, running consignments of cocaine, ecstasy, and heroin through Dublin Airport, shipments worth millions on the street. Associates later described him as sharp, streetwise, and ruthless, a mid-level operator who could move product quietly, never drawing the full glare of the law. But Griffin's real advantage wasn't in the drugs he carried, it was in the secrets he sold. His double life began in 1993, after a minor arrest exposed him to the Garda. Facing charges that could have put him away for years, Griffin made a choice that would define and ultimately destroy him. He flipped. Registered as a confidential informant under Detective Dennis Palmer, Griffin began feeding intel on major drug routes. Sources close to the investigation later confirmed he helped dismantle shipments linked to the Crumlin-Drimnagh feud, a vicious turf war that would erupt in the late 1990s and claim 16 lives over the next decade. He was valuable. One retired Garda officer told the Irish Times in 2003, but informants like Declan walk a razor's edge, one slip and the wolves turn. For Griffin, Detective Palmer was both lifeline and liability. The two met regularly at the airport, Griffin passing tips, Palmer arranging drop charges and quiet protection. It was a dangerous bargain. Griffin stayed free, Palmer racked up seizures. But in Dublin's underworld, loyalty is a currency that doesn't exist. Whispers spread fast. Griffin was the rat. One former dealer, speaking anonymously to the Irish Examiner, put it bluntly. Declan would smile to your face, then tip off the blues. He grasped on lads who'd shared a pint with him. That's how you end up with a bounty on your head. By the mid-1990s, Griffin's name was poison in gangland circles. He had dodged prison, but he had also painted a target on his back. That target would finally be hit in December 1995, when his double life came crashing down at Dublin Airport. Returning from Amsterdam on the afternoon of the 20th of December, Griffin was stopped by customs. Hidden in his luggage was 3 kilograms of heroin and 2,000 ecstasy tablets, a haul with a street value of €1.3 million, or roughly £1 million at the time, enough to flood Dublin's estates for months. Charged with importation, Griffin faced up to 10 years behind bars, but Griffin had one card left to play. At Dublin Circuit Criminal Court, his first trial collapsed after a juror reported being approached, intimidation that forced a retrial. In the second trial, Griffin took the stand and dropped a bombshell. Under oath, he claimed Detective Dennis Palmer had ordered him to bring the drugs in. My handler told me to do it, Griffin testified. It was a controlled delivery to trace the suppliers. I was to be paid £10,000 for the job. The allegation rocked the courtroom. A Garda sergeant using an informant to import drugs. Palmer denied it outright. I was horrified when he was caught, Palmer told the court. I met him in arrivals for routine intel, nothing more. An internal Garda investigation was launched, ordered by Commissioner Pat Byrne, but its findings were never made public, sealed away amid questions over how informants were handled and whether the Garda had ever notified the DPP when dropping earlier charges against Griffin in 1993. In October 1999, after a dramatic retrial, the jury acquitted him. Griffin walked free, but freedom came at a price. Gangland erupted. That acquittal painted a target on his back, said Bernard O'Mahony, author and former Essex Boys associate, in a 2003 Mirror interview. In criminal circles, snitching is suicide. A €10,000 bounty was placed on his head by Tallaght crews already simmering over lost shipments and turf. Attempts on his life followed fast. In 2003, Garda foiled a hit by a Northern Ireland gunman in Lucan. Weeks before his murder, the emergency response unit arrested another assassin in West Dublin. Both plots stopped only by Griffin's growing paranoia. Even the IRA got involved. In 1999, Griffin testified he'd been abducted and interrogated for 27 hours by the provost, who slashed his face, requiring 36 to 40 stitches, over suspicions he'd betrayed a Republican-linked drug network. Yet instead of lying low, Griffin doubled down. After the acquittal, he expanded his operations, fencing stolen goods, running protection rackets, and, according to persistent rumors, helping eliminate rivals. One such rumor centered on Jock Corbally, a small-time crook who vanished in 1997. Corbally's brother Eddie later claimed in a 2003 Mirror expose, Declan helped lure Jock out. He was beaten with bats and iron bars by a fingerless crew led by PJ Judge. Griffin was there, he admitted it to me. Then he vanished when the job was done. Corbally's body was never found. Believed dumped in a canal or shallow grave, his disappearance stuck to Griffin like a shadow. Whether he was settling scores or acting under Garda cover, one thing was clear: the rat was now a predator. And predators in Dublin's underworld don't live long. By 2002, Declan Griffin was a man on borrowed time. Holed up in Clondalkin, he moved like a ghost, changing phones daily, scanning every car on the street. The Tallaght crews weren't just whispering anymore. Their threats had turned lethal. Firebombs scorched the homes of his associates. Tires slashed on family cars. Anonymous calls at 3 a.m. A bullet for the rat. The €10,000 bounty still stood. And after two foiled hits, one by a Northern Ireland gunman in Lucan, another stopped by the emergency response unit weeks before his death, Griffin knew the net was closing. He needed muscle, real muscle, someone who could make the threat stop. Enter Shay Wilds, a 35-year-old enforcer from Corbally Park, Tallaght, the same streets that wanted Griffin dead. Wilds was no stranger to violence, already under suspicion for the 2001 Merry Christmas murder. He had a reputation for wet work and zero hesitation. He and Griffin went back years, linked through the same drug pipelines, but now Wilds was the answer to Griffin's prayers, or so he thought. But Wilds didn't deal directly. The connection came through Sandro D'Ambrosio, a local fixer who drank in Inchicore dives and knew every whisper in the West Dublin underworld. Griffin reached out. "I need protection," he pleaded. "Those lads in Tallaght, they're coming for me." Wilders didn't flinch. He quoted €15,000 up front. Desperate, Griffin agreed. Over the following weeks, cash flowed in chunks. €2,000 here, €5,000 there, laundered through brothers, cousins, anyone who could carry an envelope without asking questions. Wilders delivered, sort of. He orchestrated a botched kidnapping of Griffin's ex-girlfriend's new partner, a low-level Tallaght player tied to the blood feud that had started it all. The snatch made TV3 news, masked men, a van, a struggle in broad daylight, but the victim escaped. And when Garda started asking questions, fingers pointed straight back at Griffin. Paranoia hit fever pitch. D'Ambrosio later testified in 2005. Shay heard the rumors. He called Declan a rat, said he'd set up too many, told me, "Don't trust him with the cash, he'll grass on anyone." By April 5th, 2003, Griffin was cornered. He scraped together €10,000, part payment, part plea. That afternoon, he met D'Ambrosio and bragged, "I'm loaded." He patted his chest. Bulletproof vest beneath his jacket. Tucked in his waistband was a .38 revolver, a relic from his smuggling days. He thought he was ready. He had no idea Wilds had already flipped the script. The Protector wasn't silencing the Tallard gang. He was cashing in the bounty and pocketing Griffin's money on the way. The trap was set, the pub was chosen, and the clock was ticking. On Saturday, the 5th of April, 2003, Grand National Weekend, the Horse and Jockey on Emmett Road, Inchicore, hummed with punters, cigarette haze, and the roar of the races on TV. Just after 5:40 p.m., Shay Wilds walked in like he owned the place, ordered a Guinness, scanned the room, took a seat. Sandra D'Ambrosio was already there, nursing a Bulmer's cider, eyes flicking to the door every 30 seconds. Then Declan Griffin arrived, edgy, chain-smoking, phone buzzing like a trapped wasp. He slid into the booth with a 7-Up. No alcohol, not tonight. He patted his chest once. Bulletproof vest. Tucked tight in his waistband was the .38 revolver. He thought he was covered. The conversation was short, tense. Griffin peeled off €5,000 in cash, part of the €15,000 deal. Results first, he muttered, voice low. I want to see something on the news. Wilders leaned in, smile thin. You will, he said. Trust me. Laughter from the bar masked the menace. Minutes later, Griffin stepped outside to light a cigarette, vest snug, gun heavy, nerves raw. He turned his back to the street. A shadow moved. One shot. The .38 revolver cracked like a whip, point blank behind the right ear. The bullet tore through skull, shredded brain tissue, exited in a crimson spray. Griffin dropped instantly. Witness Patrick McCabe, standing nearby, later told Garda, I saw smoke coming from his head. His eyes were rolling. He was gurgling. Patrons inside froze. Firecracker, car backfire, then chaos. D'Ambrosio burst back through the door. He's shot. Call an ambulance. Griffin was rushed to St. James's Hospital. He clung to life until 1:35 a.m. on the 6th of April, but the damage was catastrophic. Pathologist Dr. Declan Griffin confirmed in court, laceration of the brain, massive intracranial hemorrhage, instantaneous devastation. The killer was already gone. He melted into the Tallard Warren within minutes. The .38 revolver was later recovered, ditched in a skip, wiped clean. Garda swarmed the scene within the hour, but in Inchicore, fear spoke louder than truth. The blood was still wet on Emmett Road when detectives began knocking doors. Witnesses clammed up. Pub regulars who'd seen everything suddenly remembered nothing. The code of silence was ironclad, thicker than the haze of smoke inside the Horse and Jockey. Still, the investigation zeroed in on Shay Wilds fast. Mobile phone pings placed him at the pub before, during, and fleeing after the shot. Sandro D'Ambrosio, sweating under Garda pressure, gave a reluctant statement. I didn't see the bang, but I saw Shay run out with the iron in his hand. Michael Griffin, Declan's brother, told detectives. He was scared of them, wary as hell. He knew they were coming. A €10,000 bounty was confirmed through Tallard whispers. Payment promised to whoever silenced the rat. Wilders was arrested within days. He lawyered up and said nothing. The case went to trial in 2005 at Dublin Central Criminal Court before Justice Philip O'Sullivan. For weeks Ireland watched. Prosecutor Tom O'Connell laid it bare. A murky tale of money and menace, protection turned assassination. Defense barrister John Pert fought back. No gun, no fingerprints, no witnesses who'll stand in daylight, just coincidence in a pub full of shadows. D'Ambrosio took the stand. Pale, voice cracking. I held back from the Garda at first. Shay's crew would have buried me. The jury deliberated 4 days. No murder weapon in evidence. No direct eyewitness to the shot. On 29th of July, 2005, the verdict came. Not guilty. Wilders walked free amid gasps in the gallery. Justice for the rat, one Garda muttered off record as the courtroom emptied. The acquittal sent shockwaves. Griffin's murder became the 11th Gangland killing of 2003, a year that outpaced the last in blood. Dublin's Underworld didn't mourn. It took notes. And Wilds, he wasn't a free man for long. 2 years earlier, in 2003, He had already been convicted and sentenced to life for the Merry Christmas murder, a cold-blooded execution that happened before Griffin's death. On the 26th of December, 2001, Wilds walked up to Joe Cummins outside the Dragon Inn in Tallaght, pressed a .22 caliber pistol to his head and fired, then shouted, "Merry Christmas." So when Wilds was acquitted of killing Griffin in 2005, he didn't walk into the sunset. He walked straight back to Port Louis prison to serve the life sentence he was already under. He remained behind bars until 2021, when, after nearly 18 years, he was quietly released on license. Now in his 50s, he lives a low-profile life in the countryside, drives a truck, attends GAA matches, keeps his head down. But in Tallaght and Clondalkin, old scores don't expire. Griffin's killer walked free from one courtroom, only to stay caged by another. The rat was dead. And the streets, they just kept bleeding. Was Declan Griffin a monster or pawn? To his enemies, he was the ultimate grass, betraying blood for badges, his Amsterdam lie a grenade in Gangland's powder keg. To his family, he was a brother haunted, a son from Kulok's concrete jungle. Michael Griffin, identifying the body, told the Irish Times, "He wanted out, but the streets don't let go." In Dublin's feuds, Griffin's ghost lingers, a cautionary scar. As O'Mahony put it, snitches get stitches, or worse. Whatever his sins, no one deserves a bullet for a 7-Up. But in the underworld, debts demand payment. Thanks for joining this dive into the dark. If Griffin's tale hit hard, like and share to spread the word. Subscribe to Crime Pulse and comment your opinion. Until then, stay vigilant. Justice whispers, but the streets scream.